Hey guys, Chastity and Greg here breaking down more Star Trek Discovery, this time with Season 3, Episode 9, Terra Firma Part 1.
Spoiler warning, of course. If you haven't seen this episode yet, get out of here, go watch it, and then come on back here. Now let's break it down. Now, terra firma is a Latin phrase. It means firm landing. Think of it as if you're in an airplane and you want to get your feet back on the ground. That is the terra firma. You want to be safe. So think of it as if, as we see through this episode, it's meanings for Georgiou, where she's going back home in a way. She's having her safe landing, going back where she belongs, technically, since she's in the wrong timeline, let alone the wrong universe here.
Terra Firma! Terra Firma! So the episode starts off with Culber reaching out to Kovich for help on Georgiou's current predicament. Kovich claims there's no cure for her physiological systems in this galaxy. As it turns out, scientific data from the temporal time wars shows that temporal time travel can cause serious damage. Our molecules are not quite capable of handling different timelines, let alone a completely separate universe, such as Georgiou.
Every molecule fights to either go back in time or jump a cosmic divide.
And clock this moment where Kovich pretty much says again, right to the camera, he looks at us and says, we can't break the temporal accords. For whatever reason, that seems very important, even with this Starfleet, with this Federation, where it seems like they've been playing a little fast and loose behind the scenes here. We don't know exactly what's going on with them, but it seems for whatever reason, the temporal accords are going to be held up here, and there's no going back. For whatever reason, they don't want anyone to think that they can do anything to save Georgiou when it comes to pushing her back into her own timeline, which is interesting. So Culber enlists the help of the ship's computer, now with the sphere data, and to Kovich's dismay, there's possibly a solution.
Meanwhile, Georgiou's molecules are starting to phase through solid matter on the ship. When Tilly reaches out to her, Georgiou references her Mirrorverse counterpart Captain Killy when joking about her promotion.
Find a way to kill everyone on board, yeah? Maybe they'll call you Killy, after all.
After knocking her lunch all over Tilly, Burnham informs her that Culber needs to see her.
And apparently there's a cure for her, possibly a cure for her, on the M-class planet Dannus V. This was all discovered by the sphere data. And Michael notes that it's near the galactic rim, just shy of the Gamma Quadrant.
Culber notes that Georgiou has a 5% chance of survival if they take her to the planet. Saru rejects the proposal because the entire fleet is on yellow alert. The Emerald Chain has started military drills.
Yet, due to the toll Georgiou's death could cost the crew, Vance authorizes the mission, as long as Burnham agrees to let her go if it comes down to it. He's referring to her decision with Arium.
So before they embark on the mission, Vance talks to Saru and says from his personal experience he should probably weigh his decisions a little more carefully, otherwise his crew will look at him differently.
And his decisions. I love Vance. I'm sorry. I really hope he's not the big bad or something. Please.
I mean, it would still fit. It would still fit if he's the bad guy here. I just really don't want him to be. Please. Meanwhile, Georgiou thinks this trip is useless and wants Burnham to kill her in order to end her suffering. Burnham explains to her that if she dies here, she'll just end up as a test tube subject for Federation doctors. If Georgiou wants honor, she should go to Dannus V.
And before they head out, Michael gives her a special bioscanner to monitor her condition, and Saru and Tilly give her one last goodbye, just in case this is the last time they see her. I get why Saru and Tilly feel this way about Georgiou, because she did indeed save their lives literally from control. She stomped out control herself.
Yes.
So keeping that in mind, everyone would be dead if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, and she's not a one-note character. She's shown change, she's shown growth, and you can see it in the very small just looks in Michelle Yeoh's eyes when she's looking at these characters or looking away from them, what she's feeling. And it's very subtle, but it's so effective. Like, Michelle Yeoh is awesome. On the very chilly Dannus V, Burnham and Georgiou follow the coordinates laid out by the sphere data. The journey mirrors the walk between Burnham and the Prime Universe Georgiou in the series premiere.
Back on Discovery, Adira is still going through growing pains with the Trill symbiote. The reluctance to deal with their inner struggle is starting to cause issues with their day-to-day work. The thing is, Adira misses Gray. So after like a IT moment with Stamets and Adira, where he basically tells her to unplug it, plug it back in, you gotta restart it, and then the algorithm kicks back up, it finishes, and then they both look at the screen and go, we gotta get Saru.
Saru is approached by Book, who wants to join Discovery and help the fight against the Emerald Chain. He believes he has information on the Emerald Chain's training facilities that Saru could use. But Saru tells him he's going to need to wait to find his moment to prove himself the same way Discovery had to with Admiral Vance.
And back down on Dannus V, Georgiou calls out Burnham for attempting to treat her like her old mentor.
Perhaps I should join your Philippa Georgiou in hell.
So then Michael points out that Georgiou may be upset because she killed her Terran counterpart and that she regrets it, which kind of bears some weight when you see it later on in this episode.
And moments later, Michael's tricorder picks up some kind of life sign right where they're standing, and out of nowhere, we're greeted by a man sitting next to a single standing door.
So this is where we meet Carl, who's holding a newspaper which telegraphs the demise of Georgiou tomorrow, not in this current day. And yeah, it was very random. There was a lot of, I feel like he had some Q energy, like he's just very random and off the cuff. How do you feel about that?
For the first second, you're thinking, oh, it's Q. It's got to be a Q. And then he starts talking, and you're like, okay, that's not Q. No, Q would not do this. Q wouldn't play these kind of games. They're more upfront. Feels like a mix of like Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, and also the was it City on the Edge of Forever, The Guardian. This mirrors a lot of what happened in the old TOS episode. So I feel like that's where they're just going for inspiration with this.
Since before your sun burned hot in space, and before your race was born, I have awaited a question.
So Carl signals that the cure to Georgiou's problem could be behind the door, and Burnham can't register any kind of energy signal from the door. Georgiou's getting worse, and Carl suggests that they may be able to stop the newspaper headline from becoming a reality if they head through the door.
Meanwhile, back on Discovery, Adira and Stamets play the distress call to Tilly and Saru. It's from a Kelpian, Dr. Isa of the KSF Kiev. They were stranded, and 6 months prior, they were contacted by Captain Robert Weems of the USS Haragaganai. They were expected to reach them in 2 weeks at maximum warp. And in the distress call, she fears that the ship was destroyed trying to penetrate the nebula's radiation storms.
So Tilly assumes that the marks on her forehead are radiation burns, but are they?
Yeah, good question. They're signaling to the audience, like, but is it something else? Now with Saru, it becomes personal because it's the Kelpians. And this just is leading down maybe a rabbit hole he should not go down, but we'll see where it goes.
The message was apparently made a few years before the burn. Tilly notes that the mission was to investigate a dilithium nursery located in the Verubin Nebula.
The Kiev is broadcasting the message on a loop, and Saru believes the ship must have some semblance of integrity, and he wants Stamets and Adira to find a way into the ship's onboard systems. And clock the fact that Saru does not want Vance and the Federation to know what they're doing just yet. Yeah, big something's up. And I don't know if Saru, he just felt this way because of something that Vance said to him earlier in the episode. I don't know if that set him off, or it's just something now about this case, about the burn, and now how the Kelpians are involved, the Verubin Nebula, it's just, and the hunt for dilithium, and how the Federation kept trying to find different solutions and pressuring the Vulcans. All of this is now causing Saru to think, let's keep this on the down low.
Yeah, and Saru's very by the book, so he must be noticing or sensing something might be amiss.
Apparently, the computer wants to keep the crew safe. So whatever happens here, hopefully that computer, the Discovery ship, is going to try to keep the crew safe from the Federation. If that needs to happen. I hope not.
So from season 2 to season 3, it's completely possible that the roles have changed and that the computer is the good guy and Federation is the bad guy.
Oh God, I hope not.
Please no. Next, Burnham asks Carl what happens if Georgiou goes through the door, but doesn't get a straight answer, of course.
The answer follows the question. It's dangerous if it goes the other way.
It seems that this is Georgiou's one chance that the computer was suggesting, but she will have to find out for herself by going through the door. Carl warns her that the bracelet will stay green, but there are other ways to die. So what does he mean? How can she die in there? Like, I guess I'm not sure if when she passes through, if what's happening is really happening or if it's happening in her mind. If she dies in her mind, then she dies in real life. What do you think's going on?
Same, kind of like a Matrix thing, I guess. If it's a simulation, if you die in it, you're gonna die in the real world. I'm feeling now, again, like the second this is over, if this is some kind of inner light thing, or again, City on the Edge of Forever, when it's all said and done, she walks out, and then Burnham's gonna be like, you just walked in like 2 seconds ago.
Georgiou decides to take her chance, as she'd rather die trying. She looks back at Michael, then walks through the door. On the other side of the door, Georgiou is now back in the past in the Terran Empire / Mirror universe from season 1. She's welcomed by the crew of the Discovery led by Captain Killy, and they start chanting the title of the episode.
Georgiou quickly hides her bracelet and quickly resumes her former role as Emperor and asks Killy for a status report. And Killy reports discontent in the outer sectors with slave systems taking part in the first uprising.
So Georgiou's using this information to figure out where she is in her own timeline, and she figures out that this is the day they christen the Charon, and this is the day that Lorca turns on her. Georgiou asks Killy what she's learned about Lorca's plans to launch a coup. She also notes that she trusts the honor guard led by Yeoh.
And Killy knows that Michael betrayed the Emperor, but Georgiou is already up to speed.
Next, the Terran crew of Discovery is partying, and Killy gives the Emperor a proper introduction. I love how much fun Mary Wiseman is having being Killy, and it's just so entertaining to watch.
And then the Terran Michael shows up and greets her mother, while of course she's secretly planning to betray her. Now Georgiou says she's so happy to see her, and she really means that. She missed this Michael. She's missed this Michael since she had to kill her.
And her Michael is pretty crazy. She tells her mother that she blinded and removed the hands of artists that she had recommended to her to increase the value of their art. Georgiou is trying to get through to her daughter, telling her she can bring her cares to her no matter what.
Here we see just how horrible everyone is again with the Kelpians and how they treat them. Well, they're slaves / food. They're both. It's
awful.
Terrible. It's
terrible.
Awful. Now, with that said, this is an introduction for the Terran universe's Saru. Now that Georgiou knows so much about the Kelpians in the other timeline, she's using this information to talk to Saru so she can get information about Michael and figure out this attack and see whether or not she can save her.
Also to note, Georgiou tells Michael that Lorca is moving against her and confronts Michael about her feelings, which she doesn't admit quite yet. Something that Georgiou learns from Saru is that Michael cannot love what is weak, which is what they see her as now. Georgiou tells Saru that he'll be her eyes and ears from now on, then suits up in her robe and headpiece with determination. A stage play is narrated by Stamets telling the story of Georgiou fighting to bring peace and love to the universe.
She planted steel and glory sowed. Our sovereign, Emperor Georgiou.
Then the Empire's new flagship, the Charon, is revealed. Georgiou stands in front of everyone, telling them she's seen the future and they're on the brink of greatness. Just as Stamets is making his move to attack Georgiou, and she stabs him in the neck first, in front of everyone. So every time they go to the Mirrorverse, Stamets has to die. I think that's on a check. That's on a board. That's on the whiteboard at the top in the writer's room. Okay, so what do we do here? Okay, cool. Stamets is gonna die in every single time. He's the Kenny of the Mirrorverse, apparently.
Georgiou proceeds to tell them that forces have been plotting against the Empire and that she will not allow that. Michael stands down and shows her support, starting a chant of "Long live Georgiou."
Michael tries to hightail it out of there after Stamets' failure, but she's stopped in the hallway by Killy and crew. And this is where Georgiou tells Michael she knows she's working with Lorca and Stamets was helping Michael. Georgiou asked her to confess her feelings and she will spare her life.
So, Terran world building clearly didn't get a lot of time spent on it. Michael's motivation here is that she was the king of her trash heap, and now she is no longer the king of the trash heap. She is a reflection of Georgiou. She is a tool here. That's how she feels about it.
And also on top of that, I'm just looking at her like, girl, all of this, she's crying over a dude.
Lorca honors me and respects me. Does he?
Okay.
Michael admits to planning the coup and that she betrayed her and that she'd do it again. She dares Georgiou to execute her. Georgiou fakes her out with the blade to her neck and says now the future is unwritten. She has Killy take Michael to the Agonizer instead.
So Chastity, what we're seeing here is that it was meant to go down with an off with her head moment where Michael was going to get her head chopped right off, and then boom, that was going to be the exact same timeline. But now we have our break, apparently, in the timeline where she keeps Michael alive instead of going after Lorca here too. So I wonder what's going to happen in part 2. Are we going to see Jason Isaacs return? That seems like he would be a big part of this, honestly. I can't imagine he wouldn't be. But
it'd be strange to go through this without him. But we also don't know what's going to happen in the second episode. If she goes, if she jumps to a different part of time, or what's going to go down, or if this is even real, if it's revealed that this is actually happening. Now on to things we noticed and Easter eggs. Kovich says,
Yeoh here traveled forward from 2379 and across from an alternate universe created by the temporal incursion of a Romulan mining ship.
Kovich is referring to the Kelvin timeline that was created after Nero and the crew of the Narada, originating from the 24th century, were transported back in time to 2233. Nero's actions in the past resulted in the creation of an alternate reality after the destruction of the USS Kelvin.
The Time Soldier, Lieutenant Commander Yeoh, featured in a hologram by Kovich earlier in the episode, is a Betelgeusian. We also saw this race in the Season 3 premiere. He was a smuggler with the name Cosmo. Now, this obscure alien is a deep cut to the Trek movies. The alien appeared briefly in 1979's The Motion Picture. It was spotted by Inverse and Jorg Hillenbrand on Twitter, and confirmed on the Ready Room.
The ISS Charon was the flagship of the Terran Empire fleet and is where Emperor Georgiou's palace was located. First appeared in Season 1, Episode 12, Vaulting Ambition.
Commander Ellen Landry returns in her Terran form. Now, Prime Landry was the chief of security for the USS Discovery, and of course she was killed by the tardigrade she called Ripper in Season 1, Episode 4.
Arium is also back, but as a human and not a cyborg. Actress Hannah Cheeseman, who played Arium in Season 2, is seen arm wrestling at the party with Stamets and Culber. Prime Arium died in Season 2, Episode 9 after becoming compromised by Control and getting released from an airlock.
The M-class planet Dannus V, while it may have one extra N in it, may be a tribute to Star Trek writer Richard Dannus, who worked on both Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
Not only has the Star Dispatch newspaper popped up in Trek, it's noted that the Star Dispatch is a generic fictional newspaper that was seen carrying headlines in numerous movies from the 1940s and 1950s. The Star Dispatch was also an alternate reality New York City newspaper that was in circulation in the 1930s in Trek. Spock came across the newspaper on his tricorder in the TOS episode The City on the Edge of Forever. Alright, that's it for this episode, but be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown of episode 10, because you don't want to miss part 2.
Nope. And let us know what you thought of part 1 in the comments down below, and we'll be back here next week. Bye-bye.